Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Being a mom to 3 young children taught me not to believe every story I hear. So forgive me for not believing much of anything I heard tonight from President Biden.
Some Republicans want Medicare and Social Security to sunset.
It will be my objective to phase out Social Security. People born after a certain date, you're going to have to continue paying this tax, but you're never going to get a dime.
From out-of-control inflation and violent crime.
COVID left its scars, like the spike in violent crime in 2020.
To the dangerous border crisis and threat from China.
My feeling toward you is an incredibly warm one. As we said, there's great chemistry, and it is a very, very great honor to be with you. Thank you very much.
Biden and the Democrats have failed you.
And more good news. Lower than expected weekly jobless claims. The unemployment rate remains at a 50-year low.
They know it, and you know it.
I really don't know, but I do know this. I'm for Donald Trump because I know what I'm going to get. A race-baiting, xenophobic, religious bigot.
And it's time for a change.
We allowed this to happen. Now we got to change it.
Tonight, let us reaffirm our commitment to a timeless American idea that government exists not to rule the people, but to serve the people.
How do you ban abortion? How do you actually do it?
Well, you know, you'll go back to a position like they had where people will perhaps go to illegal places.
Yeah.
But you have to ban it.
Do you believe
do
you believe in punishment for abortion? Yes or no, as a principle?
The answer is that there has to be some form of punishment.
For the woman?
Yeah, there has to be some form.
Democrats want to rule us with more government control, but that's not who we are.
Can you say why America is the greatest country in the world?
America is the greatest country the world has ever known.
You, sorority girl, just in case you accidentally wander into a voting booth one day, there's some things you should know. And one of them is, there is absolutely no evidence to support the statement that we're the greatest country in the world. We're 7th in literacy, 27th in math, 22nd in science, 49th in life expectancy, 178th in infant mortality, 3rd in median household income, number 4 in labor force, and number 4 in exports. We lead the world in only 3 categories: number of incarcerated citizens per capita, number of adults who believe angels are real, and defense spending, where we spend more than the next 26 countries combined, 25 of whom are allies. Now, none of this is the fault of a 20-year-old college student, but you nonetheless are, without a doubt, a member of the worst generation ever. So when you ask what makes us the greatest country in the world, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Because we're the freest country the world has ever known.
Canada has freedom. Japan has freedom. The UK, France, Italy, Germany, Spain, Australia, Belgium has freedom. So 207 sovereign states in the world, like 180 of them have freedom.
If anyone has seen the movie Back to the Future 2, the screenwriter says that he based the character Biff Tannen on Donald Trump.
First step in solving any problem is recognizing there is one.
A caricature of a braggadocious, arrogant buffoon who builds giant casinos with giant pictures of him everywhere he looks.
With a people who are strong and resilient.
Start making a list, put all those names down, and we start hunting them down one by one.
Traitors get guillotined!
Last year, Jill and I reignited the cancer moonshot.
5 months ago, I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer.
Our goal is to cut the cancer death rates at least by 50% in the next 25 years.
Thanks to exceptional doctors here in Arkansas, a successful surgery, and the grace of God, I am cancer-free.
It's personal to so many of us in this audience.
Adversity and fear of the unknown can paralyze us, but faith propels us to charge boldly ahead.
I had every right and authority to declare the White House as holy ground because I was standing there, and where I stand is holy.
We can't stand still in the face of great challenges. You and I were put on this earth for such a time as this, to charge boldly ahead.
Fucking million of us out there, and we are listening to Trump. You're the boss.
I'll be the first to admit, President Biden and I don't have a lot in common. I'm for freedom. If we want to see real chaos, it's very simple. We can allow liberals to take over our country. He's for government control.
And let's also come together on immigration. Make it a bipartisan issue once again.
You know who this hottie is? That's Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg in 1953.
At 40, I'm the youngest governor in the country. And at 80, he's the oldest president in American history.
That's life. You're beautiful when you're young and you're wise when you're old. Duh. Only we don't get this. Our culture is shallow because we don't respect the elderly. We venerate the young and let them rule everything. And that's why asses are big and all the movies are for kids. Whatever, fine. You know what? You can have it all, but not governing. 78 should not be too old to be president.
I'm the first woman to lead my state, and he's the first man to surrender his presidency to a woke mob that can't even tell you what a woman is.
I moved on her like a bitch.
When I come home and dinner's not ready, I go through the roof.
If Ivanka weren't my daughter, perhaps I'd be dating her.
You wouldn't have your job if you weren't beautiful.
And I'd look her right in that fat, ugly face.
I don't think you should dress like you weigh 120 pounds.
She ate like a pig. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything. Grab them by the pussy.
I have been better to women than any of these candidates, frankly.
In the radical left's America, Washington taxes you and lights your hard-earned money on fire.
Nobody making less than $400,000 will pay a penny more in tax under my proposal.
That's a promise.
That's an absolute guarantee.
And our children are taught to hate one another on account of their race.
This is Anytown Leadership Camp. Atop a mountain in Arizona, detached from the distractions of the world, there's no horseback riding, creek swimming, or lake fishing. These young folks are here to lean into conversations most people try to stay away from. Conversations around race, diversity, and privilege.
The dividing line in America is no longer between right or left. The choice is between normal or crazy.
At one time, science said man came from apes.
I got a great policy for the Republican Party. Let's stop supporting crazy, unelectable candidates in our primaries.
If that is true, why are there still apes?
It's time for a new generation of Republican leadership.
There was this guest appearance by Madison Rootin' Tootin' Cawthorn, the North Carolina congressman, last seen beating up on a tree.
Well, once they move to a red state, guess what? Maybe you don't get to vote for 5 years. You can live there, you can work there, but you don't get to bring your values that you basically created in the blue states you came from by voting for Democrat leaders and Democrat policies.
Upon taking office just a few weeks ago, I signed executive orders to ban CRT.
It is not fair for our education to be constricted under the ignorant opinions of those who reject a course that is designed to only advance our understanding of the world around us.
Racism and indoctrination in our schools.
This is not a course of indoctrination. It's a course that dives deep into the history, culture, arts, literature, and advancements that African Americans have and continue to make in our country. A greater understanding of this honest history is necessary in order to fully comprehend our country's origins and the contributions that have been made to lead us to where we are today.
Repealed COVID orders and said never again to authoritarian mandates and shutdowns.
COVID-19, I blow the wind of God. The wind of God on you.
Americans want common sense from their leaders.
The disinfectant knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning?
But in Washington, the Biden administration is doubling down on crazy.
So tonight, let's all agree, and we apparently are, let's stand up for seniors.
President Biden inherited the fastest economic recovery on record.
You attack entirely the social policies of the Biden administration on the grounds that you're retiring the debt.
Fast rising wages, a rebuilt military, and a world that was stable and at peace.
But the debt you're retiring is, in fact, the debt was incurred by a tax reform which gave a vast amount of largesse to the ultra-rich.
But over the last 2 years, Democrats destroyed it all.
Americans were still spending heavily at the end of 2022, helping to drive an annual GDP rate of 2.9%, better than expected.
Despite Democrats' trillions in reckless spending and mountains of debt, we now have the worst border crisis in American history.
But American border problems won't be fixed until Congress acts.
100,000 Americans a year are now killed from drug overdoses, largely from fentanyl pouring across our southern border.
We now have a record number of personnel working to secure the border, arresting 8,000 human smugglers, seizing over 23,000 pounds of fentanyl in just the last several months.
Yet the Biden administration refuses to secure the border and save American lives.
We've launched a new border plan last month. Unlawful migration from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela has come down 97% as a consequence of that.
And after years of Democrat attacks on law enforcement,
I know most cops and their families are good, decent, honorable people, the vast majority. And they risk their lives every time they put that shield on.
And calls to defund the police.
We shouldn't be cutting funding for police departments. I propose increasing funding.
Violent criminals roam free.
There's no place in this country, no place, for endangering the lives of law enforcement.
President Biden's weakness puts our nation and the world at risk.
We are America, second to none, and we own the finish line.
And the president's refusal to stand up to China, our most formidable adversary, is dangerous and unacceptable.
We'll confront China's economic abuses, counter its aggressive, coercive action to push back on China's attack on human rights, intellectual property, and global governance.
President Biden is unwilling to defend our border, defend our skies, and defend our people.
As I made crystal clear, the United States will defend every inch of NATO territory with the full force of American power.
He is simply unfit to serve as commander-in-chief.
If you want to be commander-in-chief of the armed forces, you need to understand that John McCain and all like him, not just John, are truly American heroes.
He's a war hero because he was captured. I like people that weren't captured, okay? I hate to tell you.
And while you reap the consequences of their failures, the Biden administration seems more interested in woke fantasies than the hard reality Americans face every day.
I want to challenge people watching tonight who don't wear red hats, don't consider themselves MAGA, don't consider themselves very strong political people. I want you to ask yourself how many times you've been lied to. Not just by this government, but how many times you've been lied to by the people whose job it is to tell you the truth in the media.
Dominion's new court filing includes testimony under oath from the Fox chairman himself, Rupert Murdoch, who admitted some Fox News hosts endorsed lies of a stolen 2020 election.
We have demonstrable statistical and mathematical and computer evidence of hundreds of thousands of votes being injected into the computer systems.
Most Americans simply want to live their lives in freedom and peace.
Are you proud of what happened here today?
Absolutely.
But we are under attack in a left-wing culture war we didn't start and never wanted to fight.
We have to, as American patriots, we have to do what we can to take back this country.
Every day we are told we must partake in their rituals, salute their flags, and worship their false idols.
Would you wear an American flag on your shirt?
All the time. When I go to the gym, that's the number one thing. I got my liberal shirt too. My liberal shirt.
All while big government colludes with big tech to strip away the most American thing there is, your freedom of speech.
We're going to begin at the White House, where President Trump spoke out for the first time from the Rose Garden, vowing to send U.S. troops into the streets of American cities if local authorities don't control the protests. Those remarks came just moments after the administration asked police to clear peaceful protesters from the park across the White House so the president could stage a photo op.
Make no mistake, Republicans will not surrender this fight.
We cannot allow the radical left to take over our country.
We will lead with courage and do what's right.
If we flood the Capitol building, flood all the government buildings, go inside. These are public buildings. We own them. We own these buildings. Do you understand that? We own the buildings and we pay all the people that work in the buildings.
A little bit of more Marjorie Taylor Greene and a few more, you're going to have a lot of Republicans running our way.
of Nancy Pelosi's gazpacho police spying on members of Congress.
Oof.
Republicans believe in an America where strong families thrive in safe communities.
This is Jake, young man interested in one of my daughters.
Yes, sir.
And two things if you're gonna date one of my daughters.
Respect.
And?
A healthy appreciation for the Second Amendment, sir.
We're gonna get along just fine.
Where jobs are abundant and paychecks are rising.
Trump administration, the administration I served, added $8 trillion in new debt.
None of those tax cuts did anything other than drive up the deficit and make billionaires richer and richer and richer. And then, of course, the billionaires cycled a lot of that money back into the GOP.
Where the freedom our veterans shed their blood to defend is the birthright of every man, woman, and child.
A man came up to me and he handed me his Purple Heart. I always wanted to get the Purple Heart. This was much easier.
These are the principles Republican governors are fighting for. And in Washington, under the leadership of Senate Republicans and Speaker Kevin McCarthy, we will hold the Biden administration accountable.
I've had it with this guy. What he did is unacceptable. Nobody can defend that, and nobody should defend it.
I'm proud of the progress our country has made. And I believe giving every child access to a quality education, regardless of their race or income, is the civil rights issue of our day.
Since last summer, parents, school boards, and thirsty political groups have pulled off over 1,500 book bans in schools across the U.S. That's more bans than in 2018, 2019, and 2020 combined. But hey, at least we've moved past actually burning books.
Mom, let me throw something.
Okay, maybe not.
It's time for a new generation to lead.
Swamp Captain Mitch McConnell has created millions of jobs for China people. In fact, his China family has given him tens of millions of dollars.
I support the Second Amendment.
Bill Ray running for Congress.
This is our moment.
We've got the deportation bus.
This is our opportunity.
That's right, you heard me. The Michael Williams deportation bus.
A new generation born in the waning decades of the last century, shaped by economic booms and stock market busts.
Joe Biden's 5 million illegal aliens are on the verge of replacing you. Replacing your jobs and replacing your kids in school. And coming from all over the world, they're also replacing your culture.
Isn't she amazing?
These are the principles Republican governors are fighting for. And in Washington, under the leadership of Senate Republicans and Speaker Kevin McCarthy, we will hold the Biden administration accountable.
Why would you tell McCarthy he can't partner with Tucker?
Well, because Fox, number one, Fox is going to sift through it and only put out what they want.
A generation brimming with passion and new ideas to solve age-old problems.
Fill this bus with illegals to send them back to where they came from.
Here in Arkansas and across America, Republicans are working to end the policy of trapping kids in failing schools and sentencing them to a lifetime of poverty.
Well, if we have a national divorce, there's no need for the Department of Education.
We will educate, not indoctrinate our kids.
LGBTQ woke teachers would be fired and not allowed to teach there.
A generation moored to our deepest values and oldest traditions.
People have no control over their race, for instance.
You think they have control over their sexuality?
Absolutely.
You think being gay is a choice?
Absolutely.
Yet unafraid to challenge the present order and find a better way forward.
I got a big truck, just in case I need to round up criminal illegals and take them home myself. Yep, I just said that.
If we seize this moment together, America can once again be the land of the free and the home of the brave.
The Atlantic magazine reports that on that specific visit, Donald Trump told staff, "Why should I go to that cemetery? It's filled with losers."
He doesn't represent the values that the men and women who wear the uniform are fighting for.
Later, he called 1,800 Americans who died in the legendary Battle of Belleau Wood suckers for getting killed.
President Biden and the Democrats have failed you, and it's time for a change. A new generation of Republican leaders are stepping up.
Given the fact that he's under ethics investigation, he should be sitting in the back row and staying quiet.
Not to be caretakers of the status quo, but to be change makers for the American people.
Then I'm never going to shut up and go to the back of the room. And I think it's reprehensible that the senator would say such a thing to me in the demeaning way he said. It wasn't very Mormon of him.
We know not what the future holds, but we know who holds the future in his hands.
I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay?
He's fading fast. He's a proven loser. He cost us the House in 18. He cost us the White House in 20. He cost us the Senate again and again. And I think we all know that. And I think we're moving past Trump.
And with God as our witness, we will show the world that America is still the place where freedom reigns and liberty will never die.
Fucking cowards! You fucking Antifa! You fucking cowards! You fucking traitors! You fucking traitors! How dare you!
Thank you. God bless you. And God bless America.
And you know how you make America great again? Tell Donald Trump to go to hell.